Well, hello YouTube, and welcome back to the Holtzmichel channel and another episode of Fork It and the continuation of the V-block project. And in the last episode we made these V-blocks, and today's episode we're going to show you how one job cogs into another. I've got a shaft to make for the groovy bed winding, and it's a guide shaft, and the old shaft is so wore out and bent, had so many dings that it wasn't salvageable. I started taking some footage on that, trying to straighten it out, and it just got to the point where the memory of the stainless steel that was used in it was just stronger than the efforts trying to straighten it out, so I had to abandon that notion and just scrap it and start over and make a new shaft. So that's what we're doing here. We're making the hold down clamps for these V-blocks, and so I started machining out. I'll bring you in here a little closer later on, show you the cutout that we're making for the clamps and how we're going about that. So what's going to be unique about this project is the way the clamps are going to get made. So let me grab this piece of shaft here. Okay, the V-blocks themselves, let me bring her in here a little closer and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Okay, the V-block here is 55 millimeters wide, and I just happen to have this old hydraulic shaft which is also 55 millimeters wide. So what we're going to do is we're going to shave off a little flat spot here on the top of the old shaft and drill and tap a hole in here, probably for 10 millimeters, and then once we're done with the strap, then we're going to lay the strap on here. Of course, we drill some holes in the strap, then bolt it down to it and heat it up and then pull it down. So this is the kind of the cheap, cheesy way of doing it. Normally you just try and machine it out of a solid block if you could, but we're going to show a different method here today, and go to show that you can use just about anything you got kicking around the shop for making this kind of stuff. So anyway, that's the lesson plan for today, and so we'll continue on here. Let me swing the camera around and show you what I've got so far on the mill. The light here isn't the best, but anyway, right here we've got our piece of machine tool, or a piece of tool steel, and we're going to make two straps. So we got two V-blocks, so we're going to make two straps. Right now we're making the strap 5 millimeters thick, which is about 20 thousandths, or 200 thousandths, I'm sorry, and so a little under 1/4 of an inch. And then later on we'll drill in the center, drill the holes, and then I'm thinking probably TIG weld an M10 nut on top, so that the hole that we're putting in here just acts as a guide, and then the actual thread, so that you don't encounter any problems with the steel trying to deform as you're using the screws to hold down your work. They don't eat out the steel, and you're just forced to drill and tap a larger hole. Then you just go ahead and cut the nut off and put a new one on, and you're ready to go. So anyway, we'll continue on with this and bring you in for the next step. So here's our finished product. Now these things are still going to get hardened. I do have a little induction oven that I can harden things with now. And so one of the things that I did here was, in order to make sure that you don't twist off of a round workpiece, is I made one with a slight point to it, and then another one with a flat. So with the flat, you can use this on smaller diameter material. With this pointy one, works better on larger diameter stuff, and then that way you're not trying to push the workpiece away. Now this is a little sloppy here. That's because this is just a commercial nut, so it's not a real tight fit on the thread. If I had cut this, by hand, it would have been a tighter fit. But I made this that, if this nut wears out and the threads wear out, that you can just zip that off with a grinder and then put a new one on there and you're good to go again. So actually I needed to, in order to do this, to shape this the right way, was make a counterpiece that just kind of goes over top of this like so, and then when the hold down was red hot, just slip it down over there and it would have been formed better. As it was, I used a little bit, I used the brass mallet, and I've got some pecker tracks here that don't look the best, but they'll still serve their function. So, and I made the pawl here just wide enough to fit in here. I've got about 1 millimeter's worth of room, well, maybe 1.5, so that way it doesn't flop around too terribly much, but you still got plenty of room to get in and out. There's still room for chips inside and out, so that way it'll grab a little better. Now if I wanted to, I could always pinch this tighter with the vise. So, well, YouTube, that's a wrap for this episode of Fork It, the hold down clamps for the V-blocks. I've got some other stuff I need to harden later on down the road, so I'll probably just make a separate video of that, instead of trying to include. I was going to include it in this one, but I'm just not going to get to it for a while. But I'd like to get this video up and running, so that way it's out of my hair, so to speak. I had a bunch of footage on the camera and got into a deleting frenzy and ended up deleting a few scenes out of this video by accident. So I'm trying to avoid that again for the future. So I'm going to just go ahead and post this video in its current form with some of the sound that went out of it, and with all its shortcomings. Sorry about some of the sound going out of it in places, and some of the bad camera angles. It's just it's in a shop here. Sometimes the camera's just in the way when you're trying to work, and you don't always get the shot that you'd like to have. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this little video, and if you've got any comments, critiques, suggestions, questions, by any means, leave them in the comments section below. And if you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe, and we'll see you guys all again very, very soon.